are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next, the September 13th meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. You can get more information for this meeting by going to www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. It's 6:10, and this is the regular meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. Our first item of business is roll call.
Mr. Jackson,
Present.
Mr. Klender,
Here.
Ms. Stransky,
Here.
Ms. Vance,
Here.
Mr. Zimmer,
Here.
and Mr. Hale is present. He will be back shortly. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item will be to approve the minutes of the regular hybrid meeting that was on December 14th, 2021. So is there a motion to approve those minutes from 12/14/21?
Mr. Zimmer, I believe with the fact that with the turnover of members, I don't believe you have enough to have a quorum to make the motion to vote on those minutes.
That's right.
Mr. York, is there anything else that they can do or?
I don't think so at this time. I think we would just need to move on to, we can ask Attorney Hale when he gets here. But I'd say no at this time.
The majority of the people that were present are here, and that would be Kathy and me. So we could vote, the two of us, to approve it because we're the only two. Even though it's not a quorum.
I think we need to ask Steve on that. I think you still have to have a majority of the whole board. I would say.
And what would you do in a tiebreaker?
Yes. So, Steve, the question at hand is, there's some minutes that are old from 12/14/21. I'm sorry. That's true. From 12/14/21, they're old minutes. They weren't voted on. They weren't approved because we did not have enough quorum to vote them, to pass them last time. Currently, we don't have any, we only have two people that were present at that meeting to pass, to vote on them. And
I'll be happy to answer if you'll answer my question, tell me. What turns my light
you're on.
on? It's my opinion that you don't necessarily have to be present to approve the minutes if you believe them to be accurate. And that will be based on your understanding of how the records are kept, how they're transcribed, and the people that are involved in that process. I know that often people abstain voting because they weren't present, but it's my opinion that you don't have to be present to vote that they're accurate.
Mr. Zimmer, if I may.
Yes, please.
So with that being said, a motion to approve the hybrid meeting minutes of 12/14/21.
Is there a second?
Second. I'll call for the vote. Give me 1 second. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klender. Yes. Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes.
motion approved.
The next set of minutes was from the July 12th meeting of this year. Is there a motion to approve those?
Mr. Zimmer, a motion to approve the minutes from 7/12/22.
Is there a second?
A second.
Call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klender,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer,
Yes.
motion approved.
So now it appears that our petitioner is here, so we'll just proceed with the first petition for this evening. Whoever is going to introduce that.
I'll introduce. Our first petition tonight is B-101-22. It's a request by applicant Warren R. Gary for special exception use to expand an existing indoor self-storage use facility in a B2 zoning district and a development standard variance to reduce the required rear yard setback located at 2600 South Franklin Street. And I do believe Mr. Gary's here.
I'm Jim Syed.
Jim.
This is Warren Gary. Yeah.
Mr. Gary, Mr. Syed, I'm sorry, James is here. I believe you might be the owner.
Yes.
maybe? Yes.
Right.
So I'll hand the floor over to you and just kind of explain what we're doing, maybe run through your, just explain it, kind of.
Sure.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
I've had an opportunity earlier today to review the notice documentation that was supplied by the petitioner. And I've also had an opportunity to discuss with them briefly, just as this meeting was starting to get open, about the issue. I noted that there are 6 people within the 300-foot radius that have not demonstrably been given notice. That is to say, there's no documentation to show me that they were sent notice. Therefore, it's my recommendation and strong advice that we're not capable of going forward tonight. This arose because the mailing slip, when you take something to the post office to be mailed, is generally stamped and dated by the post office. That tells me that it was done. All I have are mailing slips that have a name and no indication that it was taken to the post office. I do have green cards showing that they were accepted by all but 6 people within that radius. And that's why this arose. I've explained that to the petitioner and explained to him that it would be based upon my recommendation, the appropriate thing to do to ask for a continuance and for this board to grant the continuance. If that is done, then, as is our practice always, the petitioner would not need to renotice anyone that has already received notice, but would have to notice the 6 missing nearby neighbors and provide the Board of Zoning Appeals with the documentation showing that. And so my advice is that we not go forward. That seems disjointed and awkward. But that we determine if the petitioner is going to ask for a continuance, and if he doesn't, then this board requests a continuance so that you can get the appropriate documentation.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. So is it your wish to ask for a continuance?
Honorable President, Plan Commissioners, yes, I would ask for a continuance. For future notice, when this comes up on USPS.com, the tracking numbers can be entered and it can be verified that way as well. We've been successful just sitting here verifying NIPSCO and maybe one or two others, but we cannot verify all six as we stand here.
List of the ones that don't have.
Right. So we will,
I have. People who were notified, sent out, but this is not stamped by the USPS. So there's no date. But if I had a name of the 6 people, I could quickly look up tracking on their website and identify whether or not they've been notified, which I've done successfully now with this.
in any event, if that can't be indulged, we're happy to come back and would appreciate a continuance.
Well, Skylar, do we have a list of those 6?
Yes, I have.
So how much time do you think you'd need to do that?
Oh, it's pretty instant on
I
one's
suppose
phone.
I find the name, I could look the name up, I find the receipts, and I could type in the tracking number, take maybe 5 minutes. Okay, well,
We'd have to
Excuse me,
printed
Mr.
out. That would want
Mr. Zimmer?
Visible documentation that would go into our file.
It's fine. We don't want to dishonor the process or do ourselves the disservice of not having proper notice. So if it's not appropriate, that's fine. We can proceed with a continuance.
Mr. Jackson,
My question is if they can check this right here, if it was going to be, is there a way that we can get some sort of printed document off of that website to show this tonight? Or would we need to move on? Because, right, we'd have to have it for the file.
I can screenshot and then I can email it to Sylvia. Each one.
Completely up to you. And we're respectful of either path.
I think at that point, sorry, but at that point,
If
that,
you guys are willing to permit it, I can go and we can try while you move on to the next part. And if we're done by the time you guys have completed that your portion in enough time.
if that meets Mr. Hale's standards, because if it doesn't, then I support him all the way across the board.
Same here.
I just want a written document. I have, and I am willing to this evening accept post office documentation if that's what we end up with. But I've got to see it.
What, if I may,
Sure.
what you would have to be satisfied with is that all 6 of them show up on the USPS's website as received. If they're not received, or if any of them still have a status as undelivered, we're right back in the same place, just to let you know. But it literally is just, it's the homepage of the USPS website says enter tracking number here, and then it instantaneously spits out whether it's been received or not. Are there any you've put in so far that have not been received? Because then we don't have to waste the plan commission's time if that's the case. Oh, he doesn't have the list. Okay.
I'll get you a list. I'll return.
Wait, I'm sure that that's what they want to do.
Yeah, we gotta make sure.
I can confirm it's what we would like to do if it doesn't, belabor things for the plan commission. I don't want to.
Well, the only other thing we have to do right now is the old business, which is just one approval of findings and orders, which isn't gonna take very long. So I don't know how much time you're gonna take, otherwise we're gonna just sit here and wait. So. All right, well, what do you think? Should we just,
I think it's the board's decision. Why don't you ask the board?
My recommendation is we ask for a continuance so Attorney Hale can properly review the documentation that we get back and we not rush through it.
right, I agree. Is there a motion then to continue this petition to the October 11th meeting?
Based upon the petitioner's request.
At the petitioner's request.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second that.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinger,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer.
Yes.
Motion approved. We should still provide them a list of the six, correct?
Have it.
Okay.
I think it's important that the public be notified that this petition B 101 22, applicant petitioner Warren R. Gary, for a special exception use and for developed standards variance regarding property at 2600 South Franklin Street and the expansion of an existing indoor storage unit to allow for additional indoor storage unit adjacent and connected to it. This matter will be heard at our next regularly scheduled meeting on
October 11.
October 11th at 6 p.m. That meeting will be held in City Hall in person and also via remote. And that information is available at City Hall. I would then advise the petitioner that he has to provide notice to the six missing people, but not anyone else. There's a publication, and I've seen your publisher's affidavit is also sufficient. So that's your only requirement.
Great, thanks, Mr. Hale. Thank you, gentlemen. Sorry about that, but
Okay.
we'll see you
Thank
next
you.
month.
See you next month. Thank you very much.
I would just say, should you need anything else, guidance, whatever, just work with Ms. Collins.
Very good. Thank you.
Call us now.
Oh,
And it's also, I think your email. The six are-
The six have, they're in your email with the stars by them on the list.
okay. I think there was only one star, but maybe Kevin.
Well,
had-
there's like a X, and that's for the NIPSCO because it's 5 of them, which we know that they only needed one verification. And then there's stars by the other ones.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
We'll call you.
so you want
We
to
talk
look
a
up
lot, so
NIPSCO
that's-
5? Yeah, we do. We do.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good
Right,
night.
thank you.
That'd be perfect.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Okay, so our last item of business this evening is approval of findings and orders. Mr. Hale, you'll lead us through that.
Yes, sir.
Oh, just one thing, though. Everybody hang on to your documentation then for this petition. And bring it next month so that Debbie doesn't have to send you a new packet. Okay,
You have before you in written form my proposed decision and findings of fact for petition number B 100-22. The petitioners and owners are William and Suzanne Wales. The request was a development standards variances for property at 1226 Lakeshore Drive, Michigan City, Indiana. You will recall that we had a public hearing in these chambers on July 12th, 2022. We found that the property was zoned R1E Waterfront Residential District. And the petitioners were requesting 2 different development standard variances for a rear yard setback release of an existing first-story deck, a covered screen porch, and the construction of a second-story deck immediately above it. The board made findings. Those findings are in written form in the document you have in front of you. Those findings supported the petitioner's request. Mr. York recommended approval, however, subject to the following condition: that no improvements on the property can extend past the rear lot line into the identified esplanade area. And based upon the remonstrances, the record in the matter, the report of Mr. York and myself and the petitioner's presentation, but subject to Mr. York's condition that no improvements can extend past the rear lot line into the identified Esplanade area, this body granted the petition number B-100-22 on that date, July 12, 2022. An appropriate motion would be to accept and adopt the decision and findings of fact as distributed to you all and presented in summary form by me.
Thank you. Is there a motion then, as Mr. Hale stated?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the decisions and findings of fact of petition B-100-22 as Mr. Hale has perfected to us at this time, and that we we approve it.
So we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Would that motion include the recommendation of Mr. York that it be subject to the condition that I read?
Yes, that no improvements can extend past the rear lot line into the identified Esplanade area.
So we have the complete motion now. Need a second.
Second.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klender,
Yes,
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Zimmer.
Yes,
Motion approved.
I'm gonna pass this around. Everybody needs to sign it. And remind me, who's the board secretary? Who became the secretary? Well, you're, I think you're the vice. Right? So these both. So, like that. Is there any new business? Any other old business or any new business to discuss this evening?
At this time, there is no more old business.
How about new business?
I have no new business at this time.
Is there any public comment? Is there anybody calling in? No. Okay, so public comment period is closed. And with that, we are adjourned then until October 11th at 6 p.m. in this chamber.